Pricing continues to stagnate. Inventory continues to increase for condos and townhomes in and across Vancouver. We are going to be diving into all the data from July. This is your most comprehensive and in-depth market analysis. I'm doing all the hard work. I'm going to be breaking down the numbers. What does a 1-bedroom condo get you? A 2-bedroom condo get you? What's the difference between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom townhouse? All this sort of stuff. We're going to be using advanced analytics to make sure that you have the information needed to make a move in this ever-evolving Vancouver marketplace. We're going to be bringing up my advanced stats that I pay for to show you the winners and losers on Vancouver's east side and Vancouver's west side, so that we can partner together to get you into a property or to sell your current home to get you into something else. My name is Kyle Mark, your Vancouver Realtor. So no matter if you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or relocate, I'm here to partner with you. Book that strategy call with me. It's in the description below. I'm super easy to get a hold of, and I am here to help. So let's jump right into the numbers. No one cares about any quotes. We want to get the hard data because this is what's going to help you with your decision making. We're going to start here with the condo market, and this is average. This is all bedrooms. In the light blue here is Vancouver West, followed by the gray Vancouver East. The Fraser Valley is in yellow, and Greater Vancouver as a whole is the dark green. And this is the median price point for apartments. This is taking all the data together. So if it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 4-bedroom, different square footage, it does not matter. So as you can see here, and we're going to cycle through some of these different scenarios so that you can understand your certain position here. We know that pricing has stayed very, very flat, essentially since 2018, 2019. There's been very little movement here in the last year. We can see on average, Vancouver's West apartments are sitting at $865,000, on Vancouver's east side $705,000, compared to the Fraser Valley at $528,000 and Greater Vancouver as a whole at $718,000. This is general, so let's fine tune this a little bit for your certain situation. If we are looking at 1-bedroom or fewer units, we want to go over to see how this market is trending specific for you. Oftentimes you get these market reports or stuff from the media saying, oh, it's balanced market conditions here, things aren't selling here. That's not always the case. So as we bring it back a little bit, we can actually see that depending where you're at with 1-bedroom or fewer, we can see that Vancouver West has dropped 4.5%, where an average apartment sitting at $655,000. Vancouver East sitting at $598,000. And Fraser Valley really took a hit here, subtracting 6.5% on price point to $435,000. So some opportunity here, even with some of the higher rents, depending where you're looking at, the Fraser Valley could be an option for you. If you're wanting to jump into something a little bit bigger and hit a 2-bedroom apartment to see what is better for your scenario, we can see here as I get all the data lined up. Again, very similar, small little drops. Vancouver West just under 1.1 million, Vancouver East at 823,000. The yellow here, Fraser Valley at $568,000, and then Greater Vancouver at $815,000. So again, if you've been a buyer waiting on the sidelines, waiting for pricing to drop, I don't think pricing is going to drop. If anything, especially on this attached market, it's going to start increasing. If I go all the way back, you can see that the pricing here has stagnated for quite some time, right? So we want to make sure that if we look at a max and we really max things out here, for those of you who are really looking for something to drop, you know, it stayed really flat here for quite some time. You know, at some point it will break to the upside, especially when we have these continued rate drops here. So don't wait too long. We know that we can only deal with the situation that we have now. We know that there's more inventory that we've seen in several years. We know that there's a divide between inventory and solds. So it is a good time if you are a buyer. So let's bring it back here, just finishing up on the condo market here as a whole. So we can see that it doesn't really matter between the 1-bedroom or the 2-bedroom. You're seeing small decreases in pricing, and pricing remains pretty much the same as a whole. I'm not going to go through all these numbers on the bottom because we'll be here forever, but if we take it back to these generic stats here, just to go over things like days on market, we can see that over the last 3 years too, there's been 2 consecutive years where things have taken a little bit longer to sell, but for the most part, everything's selling on average less than 3 or less than 2 weeks. You know, Vancouver West 16 days on market on average, Vancouver East 12 days on market, 15 and 14 respectively between the Fraser Valley and Greater Vancouver. If we look at total inventory, we can see, especially in the Greater Vancouver in the green, a huge jump up of inventory, 26%. These are things that you are really wanting to look at if you're a buyer and a seller. Vancouver East, almost 30% increase in inventory. Vancouver West, 25%. Fraser Valley, 27.9%. So it doesn't really matter where you are at across the Lower Mainland. Huge amounts of inventory that have come to the market. If you are looking for apartments and you are a buyer, this is something that you want to key in on. You have a lot of options. Later, we're going to go specifically the winners and losers in each of sub areas and price bands for you to take advantage of. If we look at sales now, we can see that sales, in 2022, there's a massive amount, especially across Greater Vancouver. But the last 2 years, it stayed pretty flat and on par. But sales have been remaining low while inventory continues to flick upwards. Let's now move over to the townhouse market, and then once I give you an overview of what's going on here, we can jump into that analytical advanced stats to really show you where those winners and losers are here in a little bit. So as a whole, let's start with sales pricing, median price points. We can see that compared to the attached market, compared to the condo market, the townhouse market has done a little bit better. Greater Vancouver as a whole, 6% increase in median price point. Everywhere else, just a couple points increase year to year. Vancouver West is sitting at 1.4 million in the blue, average price point for a townhouse. Vancouver East, just over 1.1 million. And then compared to Fraser Valley, 834, and the rest of Vancouver, Greater Vancouver at 1,050,000. If we now break this down a little bit further, so once we get to 2-bedroom townhomes, and these are some distinctions that, some advice that I have for people who are looking to buy or to sell. If you're needing some space and you're desperate to buy into something, and you have a sensitive price band, 2-bedroom townhomes can be a good option, but keep in mind, they sometimes don't appreciate as well as a 3-bedroom because you're going to grow out of that space very, very quickly. If you can, I would always go towards a 3-bedroom townhome. But for a 2-bedroom townhome, across all categories, other than Vancouver West, where it dropped 2 percentage points, everywhere else had small gains between 3 to 4%. For a 2-bedroom condo, 1.235 million on average on Vancouver's west side, 1,029,000 on Vancouver's east side. And then as we go into a 3-bedroom, just to show you the differences in all of these scenarios here, we can see that similarly, again, Vancouver West, no matter if you're looking at a 2 or 3 bedroom townhome, they've dropped a couple percentage points. Everywhere else has jumped up in the opposite direction, just a couple points. But the average for a 3-bedroom townhome sitting here at 1.68 million, 1.16 for a Vancouver East, and 840,000 for a 3-bedroom townhome in the Fraser Valley, and Greater Vancouver, 1,057,000. So no matter where you're looking at, the Vancouver East is still outperforming in both the 2 and 3-bedroom townhouse categories better than the rest of Greater Vancouver. That's what you're looking for your asset. And then Vancouver West, no matter where you're looking for, you are getting a little bit of a discount on those 2 or 3-bedroom areas. So as you bring it back just to the generic townhouse numbers here, just to give you a point, and this is, why we break some of this stuff down. You can see that for all bedrooms in Vancouver West, a little bit of an uptick of 0.8%, but when you break it down to a 2 or 3 bedroom, you're gaining some equity by purchasing in specific points across Vancouver's west side. So these are things just to keep in mind as we go forward. Days on market, we can see that the last 2 years stayed pretty stagnant. Still within 2 weeks, you're selling your home on average, no matter where you are across the Lower Mainland. Total inventory. And we can see here for the last 2 years an uptick, especially with the Fraser Valley and Greater Vancouver boards. But again, no matter where you are across the Lower Mainland, over 20% increase in inventory with the townhouse market. 21% in Vancouver's west side, 22% on the east side. So these are things that you really want to take note of. As I said, as a buyer, having as many options as possible, because that's likely going to give you room on negotiations. And then finally, as we clear out here on sales, they've dropped since the last 2 years, and other than Vancouver's west side, with actually a big increase in sales by 25% year to year, everything else has been trekking along essentially at par. As we move into Vancouver's west side and really jump into these price bands and communities to give you an overview of the attached market, keep in mind these advanced stats are condos and townhomes. It says that right at the top. But depending on the price band, we know which one we are dealing with. So overall, we know that the Vancouver west side attached market market is sitting at 18% sales ratio, which is a strong, balanced market conditions. And homes are selling on average 1% below list price. The most active price band is between $400,000 to $500,000. I don't know what that can get you on Vancouver's west side, but there were 4 sales that happened in that price band. Buyers' best bets, homes between $2 million to $2.25 million in the condo and townhouse market in South Granville, and minimum 3-bedroom properties. That is what you want to look at if you're a buyer right now on Vancouver's west side. Sellers' best bets, selling homes in Kilchina and up to 2-bedroom properties. So if it's selling up to 2-bedroom properties, it's likely the condo market. As we look at this 13-month market trend line, we can see that pricing has stayed pretty much relatively in the same position over the last 13 months. But here's what I want you to be aware of, this red dotted line. We can see in December 547 inventory to 984. So though they have doubled, we can see that things are definitely widening here. And as a buyer, you're wanting to operate in these conditions. You don't want to operate in a pinch point, because these pinch points do produce higher price points as well. If we look at certain communities where you want to look at specifically, if you're a buyer or seller, if you're a seller anywhere from, Fairview, False Creek, Kerrisdale, Kitsilano, Mackenzie Heights, all are in strong seller market conditions. Mount Pleasant, seller market conditions. Kilchina, Southwest Marine are also seller market conditions. So despite some of the pricing that we're seeing there are strong communities in and around Vancouver that are producing some very strong conditions for you as a seller and are performing better than average. As a whole though, on the west side, the market is quite strong at 18%. If you're looking at a deal where you can look at some lower competition in South Granville, 45 inventory with 4 sales, 9% sales ratio, buyer market conditions, as well as South Cambie, 10%, 62 inventory with just 6 sales. So between South Cambie and South Granville, there are some options down there on Vancouver's west side if you're looking for condos and townhomes. Price bands. If we look at some things that stick out of the page, anything from 1.75 million upwards, you are in buyer market conditions. So if you are looking for something that is, a luxury condo, a bigger townhouse, you have a lot of options out there. We can see that, for example, in that 1.75 to 2 million mark, there is 85 inventory with just 7 sales in July. So a lot of options out there. And then essentially from 400,000 all the way to 1.25 million, it's really strong market conditions. But those are, going to be very entry level apartments, maybe a townhouse if you're getting into that 1 million, 1.25, but it's going to be older for sure. As we are dealing with condos and townhomes, bedrooms are important. And we can see that, 3-bedroom properties and 4-bedroom properties and more are the ones that are getting into those buyer market conditions. Anything from bachelors to 2-bedroom units are in seller market conditions, but there is a big drop off from 3 to 4 bedrooms. So that's why we brought in some of that data at the beginning, just because it is important to understand where to look. And then when we compare it with some of these locations and bedrooms and price bands, as a seller or buyer, we can really maneuver of what will work best for you. Moving into Vancouver's east side, we actually saw a trend with inventory jumping down month to month, which is the first time I've seen this out of a sub area in quite some time, which is good. And that's why it's producing this 22% sales ratio, seller market conditions. Homes are selling on average 2% below list price, and the most active price band is between 5 to 600,000 at 32% sales ratio. Buyers' best bets between 1.5 and 1.75 million in Fraser, Strathcona, and 3-bedroom properties. And sellers' best bets if you're selling homes in Champlain Heights, Hastings, Killarney, and minimum 4-bedroom apartments. Looking into the 13-month market trend line, we can see we had a nice jump up from June to July from 720,000 to 765, but still keeping in line with what we've been seeing essentially since January of this year. Inventory again in the red jumped from 325 up to 640, which was a pinnacle, but then dropped down and reduced by 4%. So that is something that we want to see and we want to take into account with the next couple months. Sales also dropped the last 2 months on Vancouver's east side, but this gap here is still quite wide. It's not pinched like it was earlier here in December. As a whole, if you're looking for deals, we know that if we're sitting in 22% sales ratio, that is mostly seller market conditions. In Fraser, 8% sales ratio, but keep in mind there's just 12 inventory and 1 sold, so not a lot of data to pull from. But Strathcona, 5%, so you're sitting at an inventory of 41 with just 2 sales. So you're going to have some options there in Strathcona. Pretty much anywhere else, it is very competitive. Champlain Heights, 50%. Hastings 48%, Killarney 50%, Mount Pleasant 31%. So very strong market conditions for the most of the sub areas in that attached market on Vancouver's east side. If you're looking for some breaks in price band, everything is bottled up pretty much the same, anywhere from 500,000 all the way up to $1 million is seller market conditions. You get a little bit of a break from 1 million to 1.25, but the best area to operate right now is between 1.5 and 1.75 million. It's 12%, 33 inventory, 4 sales. So what that means is that that's likely going to be townhouses or larger, nicer apartments if you're looking in that price band. When we look at bedrooms now, 22% on average. Everything is in seller market conditions other than the 3-bedroom marker, but it's just about to get there, sitting at 19%. So as a whole, we can see that there's been a buck of the trend on Vancouver's east side. It'll be interesting to see what the August data is going to be, to see if it continues to drop in that inventory. I still think we're a couple months away, if not half a month away, until next spring, until the market is really going to start catching up to all this inventory that we've seen getting stacked over the last 7 months. September 4th is the next item on your calendar to be aware of. That is when the Bank of Canada is going to make another policy rate announcement. I was reading this week that they were giving the Bank of Canada about a 50% chance of dropping their rate a third time, but unless it's something major like a 75 basis point, I still don't think it's going to do anything to really heat up the market. Just for some food for thought, for every 25 basis point drop, you're saving about $15 for every $100,000 of lending. So if you're looking at condos and you're needing to borrow $500,000 or $600,000, and you're saving maybe $100 a month, yes, it's something, but it's not something significant to get a lot of people off the sidelines into the market. In any case, my name is Kyle Mark. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm your Vancouver realtor, and whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, or relocate to my beautiful city, Vancouver, make sure you book that strategy call with me. My information's in that description below. Until the next video, take care.